Okay, lesson 1-2, linear equations. We're going to be solving linear equations, but we're also going to be writing linear equations from word problems. Let's start with this. Now, guys, we have a fraction and we have a number not in a fraction. So what do? Which one do we cancel out first to solve for x? The best way to think about this is whenever you see fractions, think of them as grouping symbols. So like, imagine if these were parentheses right here. If these were parentheses, you wouldn't move these. These would be the last things you move. Only the things outside you would move first. So like the 4, I would get rid of the 4 first. So we're going to get rid of the 4 by using inverse operations. The opposite of adding 4 is subtracting 4. We end up with the 4's canceling out. You get 3x minus 1 over 2 equals 9 minus 4 is 5. Now, you still don't move this because that's part of the numerator. All of this is the numerator. You can't just move the 1 here. We got to get rid of this 2. So that 2, whenever you see a fraction, it's dividing. So this is dividing by 2. The inverse of dividing by 2 would be multiplying by 2. That would cancel it out. Whatever you do to one side, you do to the other. Now you have 3x minus 1 equals 10. Now we solve this. Now we can work with this. Let's get rid of the negative 1 first. The inverse of negative 1 is adding 1. You get 3x equals 11. The 1's are gone. Then we're going to divide by 3, both sides by 3. Your answer for x equals 11 over 3. You can leave it like that, or you can turn it into a decimal, 3.6 repeating. Either answer is perfectly acceptable. Okay? All right, next. The sum of 3 consecutive odd integers is 57. What are the 3 integers? Question mark. Now, there is a formula for it, but honestly, here's how it works. Consecutive means there's 3 numbers. 1, 2, and 3. But they're back to back. So this number is the smallest one, then you got a bigger one, then you got the biggest one. So a good example would be something like 11, 12, and 13. Those are consecutive. But there's a key word in here that changes it. Consecutive odd. So if it is 11, I couldn't go 12, 13. The next odd number would be 13, and then the next odd number to that would be 15. So it has to be going in order from the smallest to the largest, but in order, okay? So there is a formula for it, but I like to start by finding the one in the middle, kind of like the average. And the way you would do that is by taking that number and dividing it by how many numbers you're using. We're dividing it by 3, okay? So if I do that, 57 divided by 3, let's see, I'm going to take my calculator out. 57 divided by 3, 19. So what that does is it gives me an idea of what should be in the middle. 19 should be in the middle. Okay, now I can work with this. So if 19 is in the middle, the next odd number would be not 20 but 21, and the one below it would be not 18 but 17. So then I would double check it. If I add these up, 17, 19, and 21, that would be 30, 40. Yep, that works. That is 57. These are my 3 numbers. So what you can do is, depending on the numbers you're using, right, this will give you an idea of where to start. This will give you a number from where to start. And then you can just use trial and error to figure out which are the numbers you need to use. Okay? All right, next. There are some word problems. So for these word problems, I'm going to put them on the screen, and we're going to work them out kind of one at a time. All right, so I think, no, that's the last one. This one's the first one. Okay, so we're talking about an acid solution. Okay, so we're dealing with percents. So when you're dealing with percents, you're going to have to turn these into decimals. So we have 25 liters at 15%. Okay, there's another solution, I don't know what it is, at 10%. And there's another solution, I don't know what that one is either, at 30%. So the problem is I don't know what to name that. I don't want to use another letter because that's going to be a problem if I have 2 different letters. So I want to use X somehow. So this is how it works. When I write this out, X solution at 10% plus this solution at 30% will make 25 liters at 15%. Okay, now the reason I left this blank was because if I use 5 liters here, then this one will have to be 20. If I use 10 liters, this one will have to be 15. So whatever I use here, the rest of it has to make 25. The easiest way to do that is to do 25 minus X. So whatever I use here, take that away from 25, that'll give me the remainder over here. So 25 minus X. All right, now, before I multiply this and figure it out, I'm going to turn these into decimals. I just prefer to work with decimals. It makes these problems easier for me when I use my calculator if I'm working with decimals. Okay, so you take out the calculator and I'm going to multiply. So if I multiply this, I get 0.10x. Okay, if I multiply this one I have to distribute, so that means you have to multiply them both by 0.30. So this would be 7.5, and this would be 0.30x. And then over here, if I multiply these two, I get 3.75. Okay, so I'm just using my calculator to get those numbers. Now this becomes my problem. This becomes my equation. Now my equation has decimals, okay? Now, decimals are fine. Decimals are fine. Just remember when you add them up to line up your decimal points. So, for example, I can't have two x's. If I'm going to solve for an equation, I don't want two x's to solve for. I want one x. So the first thing I'm going to do is combine this x and this minus x to write my new problem. Okay? So if I combine these two, 0.10x minus 0.30x, I'm going to get 0.20. And actually it's going to be a negative 0.20x. The 7.5 doesn't change because it does not have an x. It is not combined. The reason I only combine these is because they both have x's. We call that combining like terms. And then this equals 3.75. Okay, now we go into inverse operations. I'm going to solve for x. I'm going to start by canceling out the 7.5. The inverse of adding is subtracting. Okay, if I do that, I'm going to get negative 3.75. Huh, that's weird, but okay. Next, I want to get rid of this negative 20. Now this negative 0.20 is multiplying. The inverse of multiplying is dividing, so I'm going to divide by negative 0.20. The negative 0.20 will cancel out. And I'm going to get 18.75. Okay, so this is how many liters are in the first mixture. The first mixture of 10%, this is the 18.75. That's how much I'm using of that one. Now here, what I need to do is subtract that amount to find out how much I'm using of the 30%. So if I take 25 minus 18.75, I get 6.25. So that's how much I'm going to use of the 30% mixture. When I mix these two together, I'm going to get this much. And that's my answer. Or those are both of my answers for the mixtures. All right, next question. All right, so, okay, this is a good one. Let's say we're doing 4 friends going online to get a discount on concert tickets. They spent $312 for 4 tickets. What is the price of 1 ticket without the discount? So they want the price of the original ticket. So if we look at the information, it's all right here. We don't know the price. We know they get a discount. So when you get a discount, it's going to subtract. So here's what happens. Let me see right here. You're going to buy 4 tickets, 4T, but you're going to get 4 discounts. So I'm going to subtract 4 discounts. But how many discounts is it? Each discount is $15. So if I multiply this, that means they got $60 total off their purchase. Well, it says here that they paid $312. So with the discount, they paid $312. Now to find out the price of the ticket without the discount, I just have to solve for T. Okay? 4 tickets, $60 off, gives you $312. Now we just solve for T. Let's start with inverse operations, adding 60 to both sides. And I get 4T equals 372. Okay, next, I got to get rid of the 4. This 4 is multiplying. Divide that for the 4 tickets. Divide that by 4, I get 93. I'm using the calculator right now. Sorry, just to save time, I'm not showing it on the screen, but you can use your calculator. Each ticket is $93. That's what that question was. Okay, last one. Last question for today. Now, for this one, guys, what we have to do is, sorry, let me move this up a little higher so we can all see that. I'll put this on the bottom. Okay, what we have to do is we have to figure out 3 different portions of time. Here's what I mean. LaTanya leaves her house at 12:30 and bikes 12 miles an hour to Marta's house. So she's on a bike. Then at Marta's house, she stays at Marta's house for 90 minutes. For 90 minutes. Then both girls walk back to LaTanya's house on the same route. It is very important, the same distance, but at a much slower rate because they're walking, 2.5 miles an hour. They arrive to LaTanya's house at 3:30. How far is Marta's house from LaTanya's house? Now, how long did this entire thing take? If she left at 12:30 and she got back at 3:30, that means this entire amount of time was just 3 hours, right? It took 3 hours. Well, we know that part of those 3 hours, right, was 90 minutes of just hanging out. Well, 90 minutes, how many hours is that? We divide that by 60. So you would get 1.5 hours. So half of that time was just hanging out. So let's get rid of half that time. Let's subtract 1.5 from that. Now all you have is on her bike, walking, it took 1.5 hours. All right, so now we need to figure out how much time for both of these situations. Now, for this specific problem, there's a formula that we can use for time. Time, put it over here, is the distance divided by how fast they are going. So if you take the distance divided by their speed, that'll give you the time. All right, so I don't know the distance, that's what we're looking for. So I'm gonna leave that as D. But when she's riding her bike, she was going 12, what did it say? 12 miles an hour. Sorry, let me move this down a little bit. 12 miles an hour. When she was walking the same distance, it's the same distance, but they're going slower because they're walking 2.5 miles an hour. Okay? And that time total equals 1.5 hours. All right? Now, we have 2 different denominators. What do we do when you have 2 different denominators? Ladies and gentlemen, we have to find the least common denominator. We got to find the least common denominator for 12 and for 2.5. All right? Now, to do that, we have to multiply them. So we're going to multiply 12 times 2.5 to find the lowest common denominator. When we multiply that, we're going to get 30. So 30 is the lowest common denominator. So what we're going to do is we're going to multiply both sides by 30. Now the reason we do this is because it's going to cancel out the fraction, okay? So you get 30d over 12, you get 30d over 2.5, and here you're going to get 45. Now, if you notice here, you have 12 and you have 2.5. Sorry, let me get rid of this now. We don't need it anymore. We get this. This will simplify. This will simplify, okay? We're going to get some decimals, and that's totally fine, all right? So let me use the calculator real quick. Oh, it went away. Hold on. Desmos. Okay. 30 divided by 12. I get 2.5 D. Okay. And then 30 divided by 2.5. I get 12 D equals 45. All right. So let me get this out of the way. So this becomes my problem now. Now there's no more fractions. So we combine these. 14.5D equals 45. And then all we have to do is divide that. 45 divided by 14.5. And you get 3.1. So roughly 3.1 miles away is how far it is.